So everybody, welcome. It's 2 p.m. here in France right now, and this is the time where we said we are going to start. And since we have really so many good presentations and use cases today, I think we should get we should start right away. First of all, let me welcome all to you here to this our new online executive forum. It's the first one after summer. And you know that we organize these events together with Swiss Post, and we are sponsored by Escher Group. So thank you to all the partners here on board. Um, some of you might have seen it. We have published a report on partnering with government a few years back already. It's on our website for those that are interested. Um, since then, we have been following up on the topic. We've organized a couple of events, workshops, other things. This webinar is part of this exercise if you want. So what we said, every year or so, we want to follow up on that, see what are the new developments, what can we learn from others, new use cases, since we really think this is an exciting topic and there is so much, there are so many opportunities in there. Some organizational things at the beginning. Please keep your microphone mute. If not, I can do it, of course. I'll mute all. Unless you speak, of course. Then you can ask questions. And there's the Q&A and there are discussions. Please participate, join. You can do that directly or via the chat box. You'll see at the bottom right there is the chat icon, so you can use that as well. And yeah, and enjoy the event. I hope it's valuable for everybody. Let me now introduce quickly the speakers, because we really, as I said already, we have quite a diverse group here, and actually very good use cases. We have Ashley Marshall from Australia Post, who is there responsible for the government side. Hi, Ashley. We have Sandro Branchen, development and innovation from Swiss Post. Then followed by Diana Nuralla. She's responsible for quality assurance at Liban Post, and she's now as well the Secretary General of the Postal Union of the Mediterranean, just recently appointed. We have Rodrigo Metgenberg. He's the Chief Sales Officer of Escher Group. And we have Ricardo Lutz, who is the Executive Director B2B of CTT Portugal Post. So welcome all the speakers, welcome all the participants. And I would suggest, since I said already, we have so many use cases, it's going to be a really exciting webinar today, that we start. And our first speaker here would be Ashley. Would you share your screen and also take the floor, please, Ashley?
Oh, thank you, Bernard. Greetings, everybody from Australia. Let me just get my screen shared with you. Can you all see my screen?
It's starting to share. Yeah, it takes always a little while. Now it's here. It's good.
Okay, fantastic. Well, what I'd like to do is share with you how Australia Post has partnered with our governments and supported our communities during COVID-19. There are four key things that I'd like to share with you. Firstly, how we've supported our government customers. Secondly, how we've supported business. Thirdly, how we've supported our communities. And lastly, but not least, how we've supported our people. So in terms of our government services support, we have had a significant request for distribution of PPE, personal protective equipment, for distribution, warehousing of COVID-19 test kits. We've also worked with various government agencies to transport essential supplies for government workers to their homes while they're working from home. One of the key call-outs for me is the first one on the slide there, where we partnered with Monash Health, which is the major health service in the state of Victoria, which is currently in stage 4 lockdown. They asked us to provide logistics and distribution services for PPE, millions of articles of PPE. And typically that would take us somewhere between 20 and 40 days to onboard a new customer from the time of the first phone call or inquiry until the first delivery was completed. In this case, I'm very proud to say that my team worked incredibly hard, worked incredibly well with our customer, and we stood a service up in 36 hours. So from the time the first call was made until the first delivery was completed was under 36 hours. So it just goes to show you what a service provider can do when you become part of a team, working as Team Australia to support our community, to support our governments, and to support our citizens. So very proud of what we've achieved there. In terms of supporting business in Australia, we have seen since the World Health Organization declared the pandemic 20 odd weeks ago, a 73% increase in e-commerce logistics across the country. In Victoria, I mentioned before, it's in stage 4 lockdown. We've seen an increase of 157% in e-commerce parcel volumes since our peak in Christmas time last year. So at peak, obviously, a normal peak, we have time, the luxury of time to plan for that. In the case of COVID, we had no planning. We literally had to pull out all stops to be able to support the massive volume increases across the network. So we've seen a big change in bricks and mortar stores, literally closing overnight and morphing back the next day as an online e-commerce trader. We estimate that we have provided approximately 1.8 billion Australian dollars in GDP benefit to the nation, the equivalent of 56,000 full-time jobs. We've onboarded another 23,000 business customers in that time. Those figures are from Deloitte Access Economics. They've done a report, and those numbers are included in that. In terms of supporting our community, we've kept our post offices open, albeit with reduced numbers of staff. We have supported the Pharmacy Guild of Australia in delivering medicines. We have partnered with the supermarket chains and Red Cross to deliver food supplies to Australians that are vulnerable or disadvantaged or homeless. We've also done things in rural areas of Australia, in remote, in the bush, where we've delivered livestock, fodder, food. We've used our post office as collection points for donations for disadvantaged people. And the amount of just tremendous random acts of kindness that I've experienced by staff and customers has been something amazing. We've also, obviously, mental health is a big issue. So we've seen some real issues there. So we've partnered with the On Blue, which is a peak industry mental health organisation in Australia, to support people that are less fortunate. And then finally, just in terms of supporting our people, look, like I said, you know, one of the things that I as a leader have learned is the importance of communicating, and over-communicating again, just reassuring people, letting them know that they're valued and that the public purpose work that we do is incredibly important in building the fabric of our community. We've invested in something like $20 million worth of PPE equipment for just our staff, and you know, it's been an amazing transformation of our business, the things that we've had to do in such a short time. So that's my small talk. If there are any questions, happy to take them. Otherwise, back to you, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Was this the first time that Australia Postal took such an important role during a crisis, or did you do these kind of things with the government or municipalities already before?
Sorry, was that a question? I just missed the first part of
it. Yeah, it was a question. The question is whether you had already some experience in that, in dealing with crisis together with the government, working on those issues together, or was this kind of the first time that you really had such a big crisis management implemented by the government together with Australia Post?
Done in partnership. So, you know, whilst we're a government business enterprise, we do compete with private capital. So, it's a fine line between delivering a service and delivering a profit. And so, working with community, working with government, all three tiers of government in Australia, federal, state, and local, it's been a real team effort, very, very proactive approach across all teams.
Okay, thank you very much, Ashley. We'll come back later to a couple of questions. I know it's quite late for you already, so really thank you very much for being here with us today or tonight, however you see it, from which perspective. Let's move to the next speaker, and our next speaker is Sandro Branchen, who is from Swiss Post. Some of our speakers provided us, just to be on the safe side, with pre-recorded presentations. So I'm going to share now the pre-recorded presentation from Sandro. He is here with us. So for the discussion and for the questions, he will be here. So let me just share, and let's hope it works as it should. We have to wait a second until it uploads. Here it is. So no, that I did the wrong thing already. Just give me 1 second to share it here. I have to go here, do that. And now I can show it again. It uploads a little bit, takes 2 to 3 seconds usually, and now it starts.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sandro Branchen, and I work as a product manager at Swiss Post since 3 years now. I want to introduce to you today Billing Online, which is an e-payment solution of Swiss Post with focus on public authorities. Swiss Post is getting quite old, but one of the main missions never changed in all these years. The secure transmission of information. Whether we talk about letters or financial transactions, bring something safe and unchanged from A to B.
The volume is low, Bernard. I think you need to disconnect your headset.
Changed during all these years and technologies.
We can't hear it.
But we still do what we have been doing. We transport letters, money, packages, and we still enjoy the trust of governmental institutions and a huge part of the population. But we needed, and we still need, to change as well. Therefore, we started some years ago digital business. The key part is still to bring something safe from A to B, but the way we're doing it is differently now. It's digital. Swiss Post launched several products, especially for governmental institutions. So if we talk about electronic votings, if we talk about safe emailing, or if we talk about the information of citizens, or when it comes to electronic payments with Billing Online, which I'm going to introduce now. I don't want to go in too many details, as you don't need to be experts in e-payment, but just to give you a picture. Let's say a federal office decides to implement an e-payment solution. And this is not as easy as many might think, because there are several providers involved. So for example, everybody needs a so-called payment service provider, which is nothing else than a technical interface into the world of e-payment. But there you don't have any means of payments. So if you decide now that you want to implement Visa and MasterCard, you go to one provider, for example, 6 payments. But then you say, I also need American Express. So you talk to a different provider there. And so on. If we talk about PayPal, Alipay, you name it, there are all different providers. And that means that you have several contracts to handle, that you have several interfaces to handle, that there are different cash flows, that there are different documents you get, and at the end of the day, also the support. If there is a problem, you just have to find out where it is and then talk to the right provider. And this is basically what Billing Online is doing, to consolidate all these things and to make it as easy as possible for the customer. So if we talk about the advantages of Billing Online, first thing is that you get one contractual partner, and all the other contracts are between Billing Online and the providers. So as easy as possible. Then also one interface. You have only this one interface between you and online to handle and to adopt over time. And all the other interfaces to the other providers are dealt from Billing Online. Then, as mentioned as well, you get only one support organization. No matter where the problem is or what the problem is, you just contact Billing Online and we will find out what the problem is, where the problem is, and how to solve it. So as easy as possible. And last but not least, as I mentioned, the consolidation of cash flows and reports. You don't get different cash flows from every single provider. We consolidate them, then you get one cash flow, and also the reports. You have all the transactions there in one report. And this all aims for this reduction of the administrative workflow. At the end of the day, you don't need any specialization in e-commerce or e-payment. This is why the governmental sector is really our target market, because they have no specialization in e-payment and they do not want to build it because it's not their main focus, of course. Now, let's have a look at some typical customer segments of Billing Online and some use cases there. Put this in 3 parts. First, we really have these nationwide use cases where we typically talk about federal offices, and there is a number of services that can be handled online and also be paid online. So you can all do at once. For example, if you need an extract from a criminal record, if you need a trade register extract, or you want to pay some transport charges. Then on a regional level, in Switzerland, we talk about the cantons there, and there are other services, but it's the same. So if we talk about hunting and fishing licenses online, to pay some traffic fines or to make some land register records, this can all be made online and paid with Billing Online. And then last but not least, the local level, there we talk about the communities, and here also the use cases are a bit different. So we talk about moving notifications, confirmation of residence, or to pay some parking tickets. But all in all, you can say everywhere where there has something to be paid at a governmental institution, Billing Online can be part of it. At the end, I will share with you some learnings we gained over time from this governmental sector. The first point is that trust is a really important thing. What do I mean? Our customers, they do not see Swiss Post as a typical provider of digital products or even as an expert on digitalization. But there is a huge trust in the company overall that if I have a problem, it will be taken seriously and there will be a solution. And this trust argument is way more important than in the private sector, and I would say often even more important than other factors like prices, for example. The second point is that authorities, they need way more time to decide on a solution and then to implement the solution. If we start a project now and they say it's about 2 months, you can be sure it will be at least 5, 6, 7 months or more. And this is typically because they need to involve many stakeholders, and this just takes time. Then it is not as easy to place arguments about efficiency. And this is just because governmental institutions, they have different goals than private companies do, and it's often about efficiency. But there you can argue that if you save time, for example, in the billing part, you will have more time to deal with the citizens or other things to do. Authorities deal differently with citizens than companies do with customers. What do I mean by this? For example, when we talk about the debt collection, specifically in billing online, whereas a company is more strict there, community, for example, doesn't want to make their citizens angry, and they pay taxes anyway. So you can say there is more goodwill at the authorities. And of course, you need to think of that when you implement the solutions. Then next point, once an authority has decided on a solution, they do not change. And we typically see this when we go to a customer who has already a solution. Most of the time, they do not even want to talk about billing online. And also our customers, they've been there for many years now, and it doesn't seem like they will switch very soon. And the last point, a digital product often means in this sector that you communicate mainly with an external IT service provider. At the beginning, we have discussions with the community about contractual things, and once the contract is signed, we deal typically with some IT service provider, because most of the problems or the things you need to change are technical things, and therefore the customer itself is not really involved so strongly afterwards. Yes. Thank you very much. I hope you gain some. Feel free to ask any questions you have later.
Oh, great. Sandra, you're here with us?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, perfect. No, but just a quick follow-up question. I mean, you know, when you talk about e-billing services, and I mean, Switzerland, there are some financial institutions. It's kind of famous for it. And you're dealing here with really strong competition, who many of those are very digitally advanced as well. So what is the reason why the government chooses to work with you and not with the other big financial institutions? I think they have a lot of trust, don't they?
Yeah, that's true. I would say there it is really the thing that we make it as easy as possible, that we take all the efforts away from the customer. And as I said, that there is no specialization in this governmental sector. And of course, there are other players and they have way more competitive prices. So therefore, we have no chance at all to get into the e-commerce sector, for example, because the volume there is just really high. And then if you have some percentage of fees, it's not easy to get in there. But the governmental institutions, they see what they save from this solution, and therefore they don't want to have anything to do with it. That's why we have a competition there, but only or specifically in this market, you can say. Sorry, I can't hear you, Bernard.
Sorry. So I just actually that was the point I was just making. There are some people here that are not muted.
Perfect.
Well, you should say that rather when you are unmuted, but okay. So please, we come now to the next presentation, and before we get to the next presentation, Sandro, what I also said was at the end of the webinar, we come up with a few more questions, which we are going to discuss. But now we come to the next presentation. It's also a pre-recorded presentation. And here, yes, what I just said, please everybody mute your mics. I did mute my mic. I see, are you muted here? I did. But please everybody mute your mics when you join or when you have to leave the meeting and come back. Make sure that it's muted. I will mute everybody and I'll start the presentation from Diana so that we can learn a lot about what Liban Post is doing, and afterwards Diana will also answer some questions. So I start with that. This always takes a while to upload the presentations. I just want to make sure that everybody can see the presentation when we start. And I think it's not yet uploaded, as I see here. Now it's starting. Now here we have to be patient sometimes, but okay, there we are. Enjoy the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Nouralla, and today I will be sharing with you a presentation about Liban Post's partnership with the government. At the beginning, allow me to start with a brief summary about how this partnership came to be. So in 2002, and due to the decline in mail volume, Liban Post started to explore new ventures in order to ensure its business continuity. As a result, it devised a plan to diversify its product offerings and increase revenues through the use of the postal network. Accordingly, Liban Post proceeded with the following initiatives. First, it developed governmental, commercial, and financial services in addition to some retailing businesses. Second, it opened branches in non-traditional locations such as malls, supermarkets, gas stations, and others. And third, it introduced the home service concept, whereby each citizen could request any service and have it processed at any address of his liking. Consequently, Liban Post then approached the government and was able to secure its first governmental service, the passport renewal service, which it offered free of charge to all of the citizens in order to gain their trust and attract more services. So today, Liban Post is considered the first alternative to public authorities, providing more than 70 governmental services with 12 different ministries and processing around 2 million formalities per year, which account to around 41% of its revenues. Nonetheless, Liban Post had a lot of challenges to overcome, starting with the environmental challenges, ranging from lack of mail culture to absence of formal and reliable addresses, and finally with poor infrastructure. Moving to the governmental challenges, we were faced with outdated laws and a strong opposition from governmental employees who feared losing their jobs or, in worst-case scenarios, ending the potential corruption in their administrations. And finally, with the technological challenges, we tackled data confidentiality and security and the lack of information in most of the public administrations who still process all of their formalities manually. Next, we had to make sure to provide our customers with the best value propositions. So we worked extensively on providing the following. Number one, national coverage by ensuring our presence on all Lebanese territory. Number two, a speedy processing of our services and formalities through the use of a guided application in all of our post offices. Number three, extended working hours during weekdays and the opening of branches in non-traditional locations such as malls and supermarkets, by which we ensured our presence for longer periods of time and on weekends and during holidays as well. Number four, the availability of information and communication to all of the citizens through various channels, such as the social media, our call center, and our branches. Number five, responsibility and accountability, in which case we made sure to follow up and take actions in the event of any complaint or inquiry, thus increasing our customer satisfaction. Number six, the home service option, whereby we ensured the processing of any service at any address without the need of the customer to visit our POs. Number seven, the delivery of completed formalities to any business or residential address, thus facilitating the life of our customers even more. And finally, the elimination of the governmental corruption, which was a main concern to many of our customers. So today, the role of Liban Post to the government can be summarized in four major steps. Step number one, process reengineering at governmental level. Step number two, the documentation of the processes and the needed forms. Step number three, automation wizards and the integration of services in our in-house application. And the last step is the deployment of these services in our retail network. As such, Liban Post performs today more than 70 services on behalf of 12 major ministries, thus aiding and facilitating the lives of citizens even more. In these two slides, we will provide you with a list of all the services currently deployed in our post offices. Moving to the customer, Liban Post's main aim was to create a one-stop shop solution for them. This being the case, it made sure to undertake the following steps: provide them with the needed information, identify the required documents, prepare the formality on their behalf, process it with the related governmental entities, and finally deliver the completed formalities to their address. As for the payment gateway, Liban Post provides the possibility to pay either through cash or through any card in any of its channels, ranging from the post offices to its online platforms to its home service option, and finally through its agencies located all over Lebanon. With all these in place, Liban Post was able to provide an added value to all of its stakeholders, starting with the public authorities, who gained an outsourced customer interface and increased productivity, moving to Liban Post, who was able to acquire new business lines and additional revenues, and ending with the customer, who received increased convenience and improved quality of service and a one-stop shop solution. As a result, we can definitely say that we are all winners in this partnership. Regarding the outcome, we are proud to say that Liban Post has played a major role in Lebanon's administrative development, and this can be proven through the various awards that the ministries have attained through their partnerships with us, ranging from service improvement awards to innovation awards, and most importantly, the United Nations Public Service Award. Now we will walk through some of the examples of governmental services currently deployed in our branches. We will start with our partnership with the NGOs, and specifically the Iris Guard technology, by which we provide financial delivery pay to refugees in Lebanon. The process starts with the refugee visiting the branch and presenting his card, which is later on verified within our database. And once confirmed, we then move to the iris recognition in order to secure his identity and proceed with the needed payment. Next, we will look into a non-traditional service that Liban Post has recently acquired, which is the car plate change. This new project is an obligation initiated by the car registration department. Through this service, Liban Post's responsibility is to carry out two tasks. The first task is to process the paperwork in any of its branches located all over Lebanon. And the second task is to undertake the actual changing of plates in any of the 16 specialized and dedicated centers that Liban Post has newly created for this purpose. The third service we will discuss is the renewal of passports using the biometric technology. As a start, Liban Post receives the passport of customers, either from its branches or from the home service option. It then transfers them to the public administration for processing, and once completed, Liban Post delivers the passport to the addressee, making sure to capture his biometric fingerprint via its innovative handhelds. Last but not least, we will talk about the Ministry of Finance Scanning and Archiving Service, which consists of shifting all tax declarations from physical documents to e-documents and indexing them according to the ministry's standards. Of course, the objective being to simplify data entry at the ministry's end and eliminating human error. The process here can be summarized as follows. Liban Post receives the physical declarations through its branches or via the home service option. It then transfers them to a dedicated unit equipped with the highest end scanners and equipment needed to complete the task. It's worth mentioning that this project is one of the most successful and secure projects handled by Liban Post in partnership with the government, noting that Liban Post is in the process of acquiring additionally archiving projects with other ministries as well. With this slide, we reach the end of our presentation. Thank you for your kind attention.
So thank you very much, Diana. Really always interesting to see what Liban Post is doing in that area. So incredible, really. I'm always astonished how much is possible in kind of cooperating with the government. If you're okay, we move on with the next presentation, and we then have the general discussions at the end, because I want to come back to a few of these things. Rodrigo, he is the next one. So the presentation from Escher Group. Again, we have the presentation with us, and let me check that quickly. And I'll start it from my end. It's a pre-recorded presentation, and then we have Rodrigo with us for the discussion. So again, it takes a little while until the presentation uploads here and is visible for everybody. I see it, but I guess not everybody. Just takes a minute.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rodrigo Metkenberg, and I'm the Chief Sales Officer at the Escher Group. Today, we will focus how postal operators can sustain their deserved admiration in society during this pandemic by being the main connection between people, and by people here, I'm referring especially to folks living in rural areas, the elderly and the vulnerable, and the government. Unlike many private logistic carriers, we know that national postal operators who were once blessed by the monopolistic universal service obligation have to pivot towards diversification. This presentation will show many lucrative strategies, but in the end, we believe that a good way to get started is by engaging with the government. So, why partner with the government? Well, there are many synergies that exist between the post and the government. In fact, as we all know, most postal operators are government owned, and they have a common history. And from that perspective, from clerical functions, they know processes and they know how to accelerate the process and have the network to foster that. But the primary opportunity lies with post being able to diversify their revenue streams with government services. So from a competition point, posts are already viewed by customers as a trusted intermediary, given their size and scale, and their existing operations give also post a unique advantage that can be easily replicated by the industry peers. However, I would caution that, the large network and obviously the government bodies would have in the past slowed down technological advancement and given entry to Amazons and others in the space, as we've seen, and probably taken or chipped away revenue streams. So in other words, what we believe is that, in order to regain and to win revenue streams, I would say that government services opens the door to other revenue streams, as we will see in the next. So what carries a high margin, and what are the types of services that Post can offer? Shown here are just a few sample government services that Post already offer directly to customers. Depending on which country you're from today, but there's certain posts that offer anything from fishing licenses, dock licenses, social payments, passports, government or utility providers. You can even pay your taxes, at the post office, or like me, a speeding ticket last week. And as I just mentioned, the foundation for these services opens up the opportunity to offer more lucrative financial services products. Another way of thinking about it is, okay, how can I attract the attention, with a low cost form of, marketing spend by, my ultimate goal is to provide either a mortgage or credit card, but how can I gain, the customer? So an interesting point here is Unpost. So Unpost has really taken a stab at these government services. As I said earlier, you can pay your like I did last week, my fine, my speeding ticket, but again, dock license, business licenses, payroll, and passports, etc. But most recently, as of almost a year ago, Unpost is offering, banking services where you can open up a current account, foreign currency, and taking out, small loans. And I think I would argue that Unpost is particularly good in attracting, lower income class clients that, typically would be either unbanked or would have not have, the facility as ease, depending on their location, to avail of some of these financial services. So in effect, Unpost has created a one-stop shop for their customers. So the UPU sees three ways to boost revenues. So you either increase your price, You can embrace parcels and go head-to-head with the likes of Amazon and FedEx, or you can, as we mentioned here, diversify your services. And diversifying services, in our opinion, is the best way to increase revenues. Because if you think about it, essentially, if you think about increasing prices, while you don't add any, increase in value to the customer, this leads to customer dissatisfaction, and in many cases, this will drive the customers to the competition. So from that perspective, increasing prices does not really work. The second option is to fully embrace parcels and to get, as I said, go head-to-head with Amazon. And while this will continue to be a growing segment for the market for years to come, I think we're all aware here about the effect of parcels, especially during the pandemic, how many posts are actually experiencing Christmas-like volumes. I still believe that here partnering with some of these carriers like Amazon and FedEx is probably, depending on, especially if you're a smaller post, the best way to really take, I would say, aim at increasing your revenues here without having to go head-to-head. However, as I said before, the third option we believe is the most, I would say, easy to execute for posts to diversify their services. And we believe the best way to do this is through offering the government services. Then with that foundation in place, you move into more lucrative, So what's the foundation for success? Well, for many posts, offering additional services will be the path forward. The best way for posts to increase revenues and profitability, in fact. Many posts are doing this successfully with escher's customer engagement platform. And they offer, traditional post office services, buying stamps, retail elements, etc., while, they pivot towards, through government, towards financial services from a single platform. In our case, most of our customers use our Repos platform. If we look back at what has been successful business model in recent past, we could say that Post have maintained a customer-centric view, but for the most part, have been, successful in achieving this. The Post were, in this case, able to pivot quickly, adapt to evolving customer preferences, and leveraging the technology to do so. And I think that's the important message here is to really leverage technology. The posts that have been able to engage their customers anywhere, anytime, across any different channels, physical or otherwise, such as contact kiosks, Puro, they have really been able to engage with a customer's preference. Now, this business model will continue for customers, but however, in the future, we believe the posts really need to transition with additional physical aggregator of services to more online or digital aggregator of services. So by taking this approach, posts don't need to be tethered to any physical location. We know that during the pandemic, there was almost zero footfall in some branches, depending on the country you were. And this, by going digital, this will obviously enable a post to engage with their customers in a truly anywhere, anytime kind of way. So, how do you move from physical to digital? How do you become an aggregator of services? Well, as we just reviewed, laying the groundwork for adding government services to post offering leads to the ability to then offer financial services with even greater profit margins. Together, these additional services will help increase revenue across postal network. However, one thing of the pandemic did was obviously accelerate the digitalization of services. So offering postal services, government and financial services in the right way, but traditionally, we see that you still go bound to your physical channels and touch points. So postal operators of the future need to provide access to all services, postal, government, and financial, either through an online, portal or an app. Now, we at Escher have architected our customer platform to really be available anywhere, anytime, on any channel, any location. So in short, we're enabling Post to move from this physical aggregator of service to an online aggregator of services, which is the ultimate goal, to have both, because we don't know what's going to happen, in the short time with this pandemic. So partnering with government is essential. For Post who wish to increase revenue and profitability in a sustained way, the best path forward is to start with these government services. With that foundation in place, Post will then be able to be in a position to offer a range of financial service products with higher revenue potential and profit margins. A parallel initiative Post need to move forward with now is making the move from physical aggregators to digital aggregators. This will enable Post to provide online accesses to all government, financial, and postal services previously only available through the physical channels. So this is where the market is heading today, and the team at Escher can help you achieve this. With that, I want to thank you again for listening in today, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent, Rodrigo. I would suggest that we wait a little bit with the questions for the last round, so that at the very end, that we hear another use case before, which would be from Ricardo Lutz from Porto City de Portugal Post. Ricardo, are you here and are you ready?
Thank you very much, Bernard. I'm ready. Let me try to share my screen.
Please do that.
At the same time, let me try to cut short my presentation for the sake of time. And now that you are running towards the time limit here, and you still want to have some space for questions, so let me try to focus my attention on what we recently launched here in Portugal through CTT, and we launched it during the spike of the pandemic. It's a geolocalized marketplace. We are trying to actually go higher in the value chain, and we are trying to add to our core competences, namely on the delivery side, everything that needs to be embodied in electronic marketplace. So in order to help local businesses and with the help of local municipalities, we are commercially pushing and actively driving a geolocalized marketplace that we call CTT Comércio Local. Basically, CTT Comércio Local is, as I said before, a geolocalized marketplace that brings local business to e-commerce, and embodies the three main transactional, namely payments, last mile delivery, and invoicing. On the payment side, we have available all payment methods from a digital standpoint that can be used in order to execute a sale and a purchase at a digital level. Of course, we have last mile delivery options that we currently have available for all e-commerce sites and platforms, and that we've extended to our own geo-localized marketplace. And of course, the ability to provide invoicing services on an online basis to merchants. Basically, the CTT Comércio Local brings together in a single e-place local merchants and their products, and of course, potential e-buyers. And it tries to promote the sustainability of local businesses hand in hand with regional municipalities. Basically, we are trying to push this geolocalized marketplace with the help of municipalities that have been actively working with us in order to activate this platform at a local level. From a merchant standpoint, they will have access to a large number of e-buyers and to local to global sales channels with a full setup marketplace that includes all transactional tools on a turnkey way, and that will give local businesses a global reach by enabling everybody to have access to local producers and sellers and to order from them directly. And it's an app that can easily confirm and receive purchase orders. It's an iOS and Android app and at the same time it has a SMS sales channels for those that are still not at a digital inclusion level that allows them to use, from a merchant standpoint, iOS or Android apps. We have a support team for onboarding that was set up together with municipalities and ready to use back office and analytics as well. From a e-buyer's standpoint, they will have access, as I said before, to local products without leaving the comfort and security of their homes. Extremely important during these times of pandemic. And of course, they will have as well a diverse payment options, as I said before, a last mile delivery option for the same day or next day, a takeaway option for those that are willing to go to the producer physical spot and take away their purchases, and a national delivery portfolio of options from selected local sales points. Well, the e-buyer will clearly present itself as a local business empowerment person, trying to drive as well local businesses with the help their purchase power. Basically, what we need to convey here is that it's convenient, it's safe, but at the same time, the e-buyer participates in the empowerment of local businesses by using this app and by going through the local options that are available in order to source their purchases. From a municipality standpoint, they will have a key role in promoting CTT commercial local and engage on local communities for its use at the merchant onboarding level, being the first line back office support, and at the same time driving the marketplace local activation by supporting training for digital inclusion with our help, of course, and by empowering local businesses to go from a physical position to a digital one. And of course, trying to enrich the number of sales channels available to local producers. Let me state that this is a need that was identified during times of pandemic when everybody was at their homes, and most of the businesses were struggling to reach their end users and e-buyers in order to put their production forward. And we've tried to leverage on our local presence. CTT is currently a privately held company, but it was a couple of years back, a publicly owned one. But now that we are a privately owned one, we still have social obligations that demand that the role that we play at a local level be one of leveraging at the economic and social level everything that is local production, and of course at the same time local sellers. And this is the way that we've come in and found to work together with local government entities, namely at the municipality level, in order to push production and push the sale of local products to the local community, but at the same time to give it a national and global reach by encompassing everything that electronic marketplace needs to have, payments, invoicing and delivering, and at the same time try to bring digital to the door of some of these producers and sellers that are not still at that level of digital inclusion. So basically, it was something that we've developed as a concept product, and that is now commercially active, gaining traction in several municipalities, and basically bringing to the digital world several sellers and also buyers that are not used to use this kind of e-marketplace to make their purchases and their sales. In terms of business model, the municipality has a setup value that actually delivers together with us. It varies according to the population number of merchants, and of course the availability of info mails that they would like to spread. The merchants will pay a service fee on purchases, and the e-buyer the shipment costs, together of course with the costs of the actual purchase. And the business model works mainly as most of the marketplace business models work, and they have CTT to deliver everything that we need to deliver in order to have it as a turnkey setup solution for the merchant, and of course to allow the e-buyer to make the correspondent purchases that they will, with the support and backup of municipality that gives here a small initial push of the setup value that we need to put forward in order to cover that specific municipality with this specific service. So it's something that we are building hand in hand with the municipalities, something that is clearly gaining commercial traction, and it's a different way to collaborate at the local level with municipalities in order to fulfill our social and economic empowerment role that as a privately held company we still maintain after several years of privatization that is currently going forward. So the CTT Comércio Local is clearly the most effective way for municipalities to keep local businesses running. It's simple, effective, and safe. It actually has a market opportunity of actually providing growth to these kind of marketplaces that are not geo-localized, either they are national or global. This is the first one that is clearly localized, and it has been commercially pushed by municipalities together with CTT. And it's a business opportunity that at the same time, as I said before, fulfills our stakeholder role at a local level. So Bernard, this is basically the case study that I have here to present. I'm available for any questions that you might have. Please drive the session forward and I'll be here to answer.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ricardo. That was really interesting to see how this on the local level you work with the municipalities to push this service really in a win-win situation. It's excellent. Just one organizational thing. The hour that we have foreseen for the main part of the webinar is over. And there might be some people that want to leave, but as I said in the beginning, we have and we always do that, this buffer of 15 minutes where we say, okay, there are people that have questions that want to discuss, that want to ask, and so that's why we added these 15 minutes, simply to have the time for discussion a little bit more. We had a lot of content now in this 1 hour, but that was the idea, to get really those different use cases from different angles. Also very different use cases from the type of service. Let me ask all of you one question already, which has something to do with this diversity of services. If a postal operator would take a decision and say, okay, government services, that's a great way to diversify. We have an advantage, a USP towards the government, of course, as a postal operator. So we propose to the government probably something where we can start with building trust, working together, taking a first step. Do you have any views on what would be actually an area where it would make sense to start, where it's maybe easier than in other areas, where big wins are easily achievable, so that that governments and posts can move forward quickly? What are your views on that? Maybe Diana, you want to say something on that first? I mean, since you have so many services, you had to start with one, I guess. No, you're still muted. Wait. Yeah, it's okay now. It's not okay. We don't hear you. I'm sorry. There is something. I mute you and I unmute you, but still we can't hear you. I guess there was some issue. Maybe somebody else has a view on that. Diana, you're back? But not with audio, apparently. No, try it again. Now I think it works.
Okay.
Yes, it works. Perfect. Great.
So as I was saying, our journey with the government, excuse me, was a long and difficult one. Specifically with Lebanon, as we were in 18 years of civil war, absence of a trust in the postal industry. So we had to gain the trust of the people, and we had to to work on the culture as well. So this being said, our challenge was to convince both the government and the citizen of how they can approach us. And this being said, we also had to infuse the idea that the post was now privatized and trustworthy. So what we did at the time was that we took a strategic decision to grant the government a service free of charge. So in this way, we enticed them to approach us both at the governmental and at the citizen level. And by doing so, we were able to grab additional services. And today, we can say that this was the main key to a successful market penetration. And it also allowed us to capture additional services and to secure our position as the main partner to the government and the daily life facilitator to the citizens. So this was our main strategy by which we entered the market, and we were able, through this, to capture the majority of the services and as such become the leader in the industry.
Okay. Thank you, Diana. Rodrigo, you're following many posts. You were involved in many kind of these activities where posts entered into relationship with governments. You brought the use case with NPAS. What is your view? You were talking about diversification, but what kind of service should you start with, maybe?
I think it really depends on, and it's going to be country specific. You know, what's going to bring people back to your website as to become that online aggregator, as we call it. And I think about something that is currently very common. So I give my own example of having to pay my speeding ticket. You know, things that will get you back. That is a common occurrence, I would say, and not something that you would look for. So it's services like those. Another good example is you can even get your liquor license if you're opening up a store, you know, through the post by applying for that license. So it's simple things that you need to drive traffic or footfall to your post, and then at the same time, when you get them and have them captured, you really need a strong marketing strategy to be able to then obviously offer all the real, I would say, services that will be more financially rewarding for the post. So I would start really by looking at use cases that are country specific. You know, obviously, my example here about a liquor license might not be very lucrative in Arab states. So from that perspective, obviously, that wouldn't be a goal. You know, but if you think about things of have to do with traffic violations, things that have to do with you know, certain utilities that are government owned, I think those would be probably a very good way to start.
Okay, thanks. Sandro, are you still with us?
Yes, still here.
Perfect. I mean, Swiss Post is always a good example. You entered into so many different areas, which are huge. All of them, I have the impression, are huge areas as well. It is e-voting or the e-billing that you presented, e-health. Actually, what was the service you started with? Do you remember, or what were the services that made it easier to enter into a relationship and build on that?
Yeah, actually, I cannot answer which was the first one, as I wasn't there then. But I can say it's not as easy because we talk about 26 cantons here in Switzerland, and we talk about 2,200 municipalities, and they all have, or a lot of them have, different needs depending on size, for example. And the use cases you've mentioned or we've seen before, these are typical services that are not, or are more at the edge of the governmental institutions. Let's say, as we say, we talk about online payment only, and not doing some web shops, some counter online and so on. Or if we talk about e-voting, this specific case we discussed with the cantons. So I would say if we launched some, let's say, smaller products a bit at the edge of these customers, and there to gain some trust and then build it up more and more. And now we plan to go deeper into the value chain of these institutions, and just to build it up from there. Like, we gain trust in billing online, so they will probably trust us as well in other topics. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo. You are here, I guess, still, right? Ricardo?
Sorry. Yes, I am, Bernard.
You're
Sorry.
here. Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
No, I also wanted to pass on the question to you because, I mean, CTT Portugal Post, you, like Liban Post, you really provide many government services. You have developed them over the years. Do you have some views on that? What were the things you figured out it was better to start with? Or if you would tell your story to a post and the post asks you, what shall I start with? What areas would you highlight?
I think that the payment area is a strong area to start with, because the government, of course, needs capillarity, needs to spread the presence from north to south, and the way that we are locally embodied in the day-to-day of the local populations enable us to provide value to that kind of approach. So I think that the payment area is clearly something that we should explore within the partnering with government contexts, and of course, starting there, try to push our way up in the value chain, try to, of course, deliver added value in order to become a turnkey provider in certain specific areas, namely e-commerce, that we are currently trying to pursue. So it's a step-by-step approach, leverage on our local presence that I think we can build hand in hand with central government and, of course, municipalities in order to spread our presence in strategic areas of growth in order to mitigate the drop of standard mail that we are witnessing across the globe. So in a direct answer to your question, I think payments can be the starting point of something bigger, and in the process of growing, select strategic areas of revenue growth, namely e-commerce, that from a delivery side and also to a full turnkey setup side, we can actually take away and occupy the space at a local level. I think that from local to global, as we say, right? So I think we are in a position to leverage our local presence and bring to a local level most of the activities and players and stakeholders that are currently not there. I think we can be that enabler, and I think we can sell ourselves in terms of government appeal in that way.
Thank you. Ashley, what is your view?
Oh, look, fascinating conversation, Bernard. Thank you. So just to give you an example from our business, you know, we're 208 years young this year, so the brand is trusted well. We have the largest retail footprint in the nation. We have 4,400 stores. So we can do things at scale like no other retailer can do. From a government services perspective, for us, it's about making mail relevant. So it's providing analog and digital capability in mail. So that's inbound and outbound digitization. It's outsourcing of mail rooms. It's providing identity and payment services. It's also then about logistics and thinking about 4PL logistics. So who better to provide services for government than the post office? Now, for example, if you take 4PL logistics, whereby in government healthcare at the moment, we probably do a little bit of first mile, a little bit of last mile, but we could be doing first mile, middle mile, last mile, as well as from point of manufacture right through to delivering equipment into surgical wards, doing the impress stuff, smart ambulances, all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of work being done as to what we look like in 2025 and beyond. And one of the things that we have a challenge with is not just our customers who are wanting to lead with digital first, as opposed to in-person services because they're being forced to do even more with even less money. So we have to follow, but at the same time as follow, we have to lead. And that means our people need to upskill. They need to have a higher level of capability. They need to be more consultative and better qualified. But equally, we have to be able to scale and deliver self-serve capability. So for us, things like consolidating billing onto a single bill, being able to give customers information that's readily available at the touch of their fingertips and be self-serving, which takes cost out of our supply chain and cost to serve. So you know, they're the kind of things that we are focusing on in Australia Post in terms of our government services.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The 1 hour, 15 minutes are over. I think we have to close it here. Let me once again thank you all the speakers. Excellent use cases, good discussion at the end. For those that stayed, I think you made the right choice here. We could, I think, continue for 1 or 2 hours easily, but it is not possible, unfortunately. Again, thank you very much to everybody, in particular also, of course, to our partner in these webinars, Swiss Post and Escher Group, who sponsored this webinar. Thank you very much. Again, to also all the participants who joined. A remark at the very end here. Yes, because the question has been asked before and also during the webinar, the presentations will be shared. We have recorded the webinar and we'll publish the webinar, so people will be able to go through the webinar again, look at the presentations, listen to the speeches, well, think again about all the different things and digest them that they've heard. So I'll send to everybody the link to the published presentation, to the published recorded webinar, so that you all have it. If you have any comments, feedback, ideas for future webinars, if you want to do a deep dive on this topic, for example, on a smaller scale, just contact me, let me know. We bring the right people together. So the important thing here is to drive the discussion and to make the exchange between everybody as simple, interesting, and valuable as possible. Thank you very much again for being with us today, and don't miss our next webinar on the 29th of September, when we are going to talk about the always on post. So please have a great day or a great night, depending on where you are.